For more on the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo, we're joined by Margot Wallstrom, the United Nations Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, and Zainab Salbi, the founder and CEO of Women for Women International, an organization that aids women in conflict zones. Margot Wallstrom, how extensive, how systematic is what we are seeing right now in Eastern Congo?
I think this demonstrates that women have become today's front soldiers. And as a colleague of mine has said, that it can be more dangerous to be a woman than a soldier. It is widespread, and it exists not only in the DRC, but in other wars and conflicts as well. So we should not call it cultural, not even sexual, but it's criminal. And this is where we have to focus our efforts right now, to end impunity, to send a strong message that this is not allowed, it's criminal, and we'll go after the perpetrators.
You talk about going after the perpetrators. There are so many reports that the United Nations should have been there or had information that at least there was rebel activity in this area where this latest series of mass rapes happened. Did the UN drop the ball?
I think that it's important to, as we have done, we've looked at sort of the shortcomings of peacekeepers in this case, where information was not rightly interpreted, or where they did not act as they should have. And we will also correct that and follow up and do our homework. But that must not allow us to lose focus on the perpetrators, because I think this is also very important. We need that spotlight as well to make sure that we deter and send a strong message to those who commit these crimes, and also make sure that with the help of the government and the national army that we can actually make an effort to find them and put them to justice.
Zainab Salbi, this is not the first time we've had this conversation about rape as a weapon of war. How extensive is it? How addressable is it?
It's very extensive, unfortunately. It has happened historically. It is taking one of the worst shape in Congo. About 1,000 women is getting raped every month in the last 12 years, according to the State Department. This is a horrible, horrible atrocity that is facing. I think part of stopping it or addressing it is the political will. The truth of the matter, the international community has not shown political will to stop this violence, and to see that violence against women in Congo as a violence against the whole population, and as an indicator for the direction of that country and the war of it. We know, the UN and others know actually who are the perpetrators. These are public perpetrators, not secret ones. We know who are financing them. There are 40 men who, it's a public record. Their cell phones, their flight itineraries, their movement is a public record. There is no political will to do actions about the Congo. Refugees on top of it are living in dismal situation. We keep on focusing on the perpetrators as opposed to what can we do about it. Political will in arresting them, protecting the victims, and providing for the victims after what they endure.
Is there no domestic responsibility? Is the government in DRC incapable of doing this? Does this all have to fall on the international community?
Not at all, but it shouldn't all also fall on the DRC government. So no, the DRC, the Congo is a huge country, first of all. It's very centralized. Eastern Congo historically has not been in strong relationship with the central government. It is there's a huge level of corruption, so that contributes to a lot of it. And of course, there's a lot of level of mines and resources in Eastern Congo that have many players from neighboring countries and from others who are contributing to that crisis.
Margot Wallstrom, I want to ask you to respond to what Zainab just said, which is that that this is a matter of political will around the world, and that basically the international agencies look away.
Well, this was brought up just a couple of weeks ago in the Security Council, so at least the international community, I think, has this time reacted very, very strongly. And I think we need to act on parallel tracks, and at the same time we need to mobilize the political will. That is absolutely correct. We need to make sure that we militarily go after and find the perpetrators, because this is the way to end impunity. It has to start with finding these guys and putting them to justice. And I think we also need to improve, of course, the way we do peacekeeping, so how to harmonize also what the UN does. But again, that will play always a limited role in such a vast country. We can never at the same time cover all the geographical areas and so on. But we can do better, and this is what we have to make sure we get better training and so on. So I agree that this has been, it's an expression of the fact that women also lack a voice or respect in those countries. And it has to be seen together with the fact that there are economic interests in this country that also helps to fuel the conflict. And that's why I welcome actually President Kabila's initiative to now ban mining activities in this part of the country. I think at least all of those things contribute to us being more effective in addressing the problem.
Zainab Salbi, we just saw the women in that Lindsay Hilson piece. We saw the men actually talking in that piece. They're part of a program that you run in Congo. What is the point in hearing from these men? What is that about?
Well, what Women for Women International believes is that we must talk to the men to raise their awareness about the importance of stopping this violence. And I actually believe, out of many interviews with hundreds of men, that this change is possible. So we work with men in leadership positions, the mayor, the pastor, the military commander, the governor, and others, and the soldiers, as we saw. And I personally interviewed once a military commander who said, before I enter this training, because we tell them, if you want to be a good leader, you need to understand what the women in your population are asking for and demanding. So this one military commander, he said, before I entered this program, every time I entered another man's house and I had a gun and he didn't have a gun, I never questioned about raping his wife. I always raped his wife. Until I realized that I could get HIV and that I could die and half of my soldiers could die. So this very military commander now abolished rape and punished any soldier who is raping. And eventually, a year later when I met him, he had moved from very cold-hearted argument to a more moral one as he got closer to his wife.
But about his own self-interest.
But it's about his self-interest. But the whole point is here, we have to look at multifaceted approaches. We have to talk because we really need to stop this rape. And if it's as simple as correlating HIV with rape, then we need to make that simple correlation.
Margot Wallstrom, I want to ask you about something a former UN official who was in the Congo said. It was about the question of apathy. And he said, you know, if you realize you can't deal with the situation, you may just decide to do nothing. Is that, assuming that right now that you're on top of this and you want moving forward to address this issue, up until now, this has been going on for years and years, has apathy been as much of a problem?
I wouldn't say so, because I think that the UN response has become more and more effective in that actually we have a much higher level of awareness. We have, for example, we presented an inventory of best peacekeeping practices where we learn more about protecting civilians, and that of course means women and asking women. So even in the Congo they have these market patrols accompanying women to the market or to the water well, and that I think has helped a lot also to deepen the understanding of women's need of protection, and I think it has helped to prevent also rapes, and that is also in other parts of the world where we have wars and conflicts. So I think this is not true. I think we have put this higher up on the political agenda, but we still, let me just point out that this is an international, it's a crime.
Well, let me ask you about that.
It's a violation of human rights, and I think it has to be treated that way.
Well, yes,
I don't think we have time to wait for sort of a moral understanding. I think there has to be command responsibility. It has to be military and civil justice. And this is very important and serves as a signal also to the soldiers, because they have to obey orders, and it has to be very clear that there is a responsibility. Thanks God also the ICC brings up these cases now. So in the international criminal tribunals there is also a case on rape.
All right. Margot Wallstrom of the United Nations, Special Representative on Sexual Violence and Conflict, and Zainab Salbi. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.